Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to call to order at 3:31, the Education Committee meeting, Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you all for coming. We haven't had an education meeting in a while, and I don't think we need introductions, but thank you, Michelle. And Michelle, this is a new land acknowledgement, so easy on me. So we call to order. We acknowledge that we work and learn on the Hoholties of the Seashot, Hupecheset First Nations. We also acknowledge that we have schools located on the Hoholti of Huayet and Taloquiet First Nations and Ukulithot governments. Do we feel we need to do introductions, or can we just go right along? We introduce Russell, who is going to be with us till about 5 till he goes to hockey. Russell. Welcome, Russell. We'll go to number 3, that the Board of Education approved November 4th, 2025 Education Committee agenda as presented.
So moved, Craig.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Brave.
Thank you. All approved? Oh, all in favor? Sorry. Haven't done this for a while. Thank you. We have no presentations for petitions, unfinished business, any emergent issues by anyone. So we will go right down to staff reports. 7.1, email signature and land acknowledgement with Michelle Colwine, Manager of Indigenous Language and Culture.
Go, Uklama, Michelle Colwine. Thanks for giving me a little bit of time today. Some of you may be familiar with an initiative we're working towards creating a land acknowledgement display for this board office, as well as upstairs in the reception area, as well as a student representation display. So showing the logos of the nations, all the nations, as we have students from all New Toronto nations in our schools. So just in preparation for this, I've been consulting with all the nations, and just some, I think, important feedback that we've received throughout those consultations led us to take a look at our email signatures and land acknowledgement wording. So I just wanted to share specifically the feedback from Wamish, our elected chief counselor from the Shot. He outlined that he feels there's a growing concern from local nations about like a blanket style statement of our school district staff acknowledging all New Toronto nations in land acknowledgements, and just it comes from there being a fear of giving the impression that all nations have territory in Port Alberni, when Port Alberni is specifically Tshot and Hupecheset. So just with that in mind, they were in support of us moving towards a little bit of different wording and having the land acknowledgement display here at the board office, but just with a little bit of work to be done first. Wanted to ensure that we clearly displayed that Tshot and Hupecheset were the nations whose Hoholti we're on. Wamish noted that they're often having to correct people who acknowledge all or many of the New Toronto nations when land acknowledgements are happening in the schools, offices, or events in Port Alberni. And just wanting to avoid creating confusion amongst the public, especially considering other nations such as Huayet, Uchakosit, and Uklithot all have offices in Port Alberni now. So just generally a desire from the nations to see Pacific Rim SD70 staff acknowledge whose territory they are working on, ensuring accuracy to the region they are in. And he did make note, I thought it was worth a quote, "There is no such thing as New Toronto territory." So I just, in my information sheet, included how our current email signature and land acknowledgement reads. And then it was Wamish that provided a bit of direction on, how we could revamp it to having our email signatures first part of it, identify the specific Hoholti our staff are on, so that the signatures would look a little bit different for staff looking out of the Alberni Valley, our staff working in Tlaoquiet territory, and Uklithot territory, and Huayet territory in Fatfield. So then those are just some the specific email signatures for each region. And Uklithot did take the time to come up with wording specific to their helpfully and provided that to us. So you'll notice Youth is a little bit different from the others, but that's wording right from them that they'd like us to use. Regarding next steps, it would just be notifying our staff of these changes, providing some new templates, and updating our website and other platforms where we have land acknowledgements. And my references are just consultations with the nations. I do feel I need to connect a little bit more with DITI-DOT, Houseit, and Norwich Muchelet. And who I reached out to the nations were chief and council members, education department staff, lands and natural resource staff, and communication staff.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's wonderful information. Do we have questions? Trustee Greg?
It's not so much a question, but I really appreciate all the research, Michelle, and it gives me much better feeling that with that direct input from the nations that we are proceeding correctly in the proper manner. I try really hard not to sound rote just by the inflection in a voice so that it's not sounding like it's an obligation. For me, it's a true gratitude to the nations for the beautiful area that we live in. So thank you so much for this research. And as those templates come available, of course, you'll notify trustees and we can set them aside in our folder so that we have them ready for when we're in the different locations too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Trustee Brett?
Thank you, through your chair. Probably to Superintendent Cleaver. So is this, we're going forward with it, it's implemented, that sort of thing? Is there next steps on our end that we need to do so that we make sure that this is followed through with?
Through the chair, no, I think the next step is just that Michelle will send out information to every staff member. And our expectation is that will be the land acknowledgement. And goes, I just want to point out that it goes a little beyond just email acknowledgements, that when we're actually doing business on the territory, that we acknowledge that we're on that territory. And then if we further want to acknowledge that our other schools are on other territories, that's fine. But just to make sure we're not acknowledging all the nations when we're actually on such island, which sit here and locating, et cetera. So it's great. And I agree. Thank you for the work. It's took a long time. It's hard to get answers sometimes and people are so busy in the nations, but you've done it, which is fantastic.
So much. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Trustees Annette?
Thank you, Chair, to Manager Cohen. I, as a non-Indigenous person, have, and as a trustee, still I try to what's the word, to learn how to pronounce, but I struggle. So when I look at this, I know that the previous original email, sorry, response doesn't address my current question, but is there, I'm feeling a need of wanting to include everyone and make sure that they know what these words actually mean. So I am asking if we should not, want to, maybe it's not appropriate, but to put is it the English version of the word? Because Sishant does not look, it's hard, to see, I don't even know how to pronounce those words. I'm sorry, my ignorance is right there on display. So I was just want to engage people and I want them to look at this and not just go, okay, I don't understand it, I'm going to move on, which is what I think will happen. Because you don't know what it means, you move on, right? And you get the gist of it. So I'm thinking it's worthwhile to, as UQ did, they put some wording in and then they put the meaning of it so that I could understand and try to embrace it and maybe learn what the letters mean and so on. So I am concerned that we're not including everyone and giving them the opportunity to actually learn what this is, and they may overlook it because they don't know what it means. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to respond or no? You don't.
Sure. Maybe a brief. I empathize and I can understand that that concern. When the work I'm doing with the nations and hearing from the language groups, I think there is a real intentional effort to use the proper phonetics going forward, but also like educating around the different resources we have to share with our community members. Like First Voices is a really good resource. And I think we have quite a bit of resources on our Indigenous education website too, to guide people along the way of how to pronounce certain letters and characters. But I hear what you're saying. We don't want to discourage anyone from taking on a little bit more new learning and practicing how to say things. So thank you for it.
Thank you.
The chair, just going to suggest, Michelle, maybe we could have some further conversation that it's not maybe, or maybe we might want to think about a QR code that goes to our language sites that have the pronunciations of the words. Just a thought, we can add that. I'm not sure if we can do that to email. Guys, or not.
Good. So, there would be a, yeah. I think, I think the work is awesome. I know, which ties into what Superintendent Claver was just saying, that there's a technical piece of, if you don't have the font right, and you copy and paste it, it gets rid of certain characters, which take away the meaning of the language. And so I'm thinking that we might benefit from creating a really sort of technical how-to step-by-step to, have the signature right on Outlook and have the signature right on my Apple Mail device and that type of thing. So I'd be happy to work with you and the IT team to support that. I know myself mistakenly having just copied pasted into an existing signature having lost characters. Yeah. So that's all part of the learning.
Right, of course. Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Looking, making sure Larry doesn't have a question. Thank you very much, Michelle. I would say, Michelle, like you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. All up to you.
Thank you.
We're pretty interesting here. Point to 7.2. We have career preparation with James Messenger, Assistant Superintendent, and Greg Freeby, our district lead.
And my name's up there, but really my name's up there to just introduce our district career coordinator, Craig Freely, and acknowledge all the great work he does and the information he's going to share with us regarding this.
Thank you. And I appreciate James because he's my sounding board for all the wild and wacky ideas we have. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. Just going to share a few highlights and maybe a few challenges in there as well. I did send out an information sheet that hopefully you've had a chance to look at, and I think Paul is going to help me share it. He is. So just remembering doing this the last time, time moves really quickly, so I'm going to get right into it. First one, I'm just reviewing career education goals. These have just kind of evolved over time. They feel like they fit really well right now. Actually, when I did that first, and I look at everything that we're going to talk about here, and it comes back to this. So these just kind of evolved through our department and using some ministry data like some satisfaction surveys and other things like that. But I won't read them because you've already probably had a chance to look at them. But we can reflect after if we're meeting some of these goals. I want to move on. I'm going to share kind of start and end with a little bit of my own version of good news from schools. Just a couple of recent events that have happened. So we'll go to the next slide, please, Paul. Recently, this is an old photo, by the way, in case that's a hot topic. This was our recent post-secondary BC event. Last Wednesday, we hosted, called it our second annual, but it's not really our second annual. We've been doing this for a long time, but generally within each school. And last year, for the first time, we did it at ADSS, but we invited learners from both UQLIT and 8th Avenue, which is a really awesome event. It's one of the only times I can think of the entire year where we get all these students together, and a lot of them know each other from outside of school and hobbies and clubs and stuff. So it's neat to see that. We also had post-secondary counselors there from NTC, and it was just a great event. We had 14 post-secondaries. We started in the theater. Everybody has a little bit of time to share who they are and where they're from, and then we break out into this event. So every presenter has a table, and students have hour and a half or so to cruise around and ask questions and gather information and get program guides. So it's probably the best thing that we do that's really hands-on, that lets students to prepare for post-secondary. And I think the theme in the theater was that it's not too late. In fact, sorry, it's not too early. It's almost getting too late. Like some post-secondaries they're open applications right now. There's firm deadlines coming up in November, definitely January and March. So I think we sparked some interest and got some students moving. It was a really good event. So we, Mr. Messenger and I have a little bit of a budget, so we actually paid for the busing for the USS students to come up because that was an expensive cost. They loaded up a bus. They had pretty much a full bus of grade 11 and 12 students, and they really, really appreciate it. I know the last time we were here was a goal to do more, help them more, and I think we've been accomplishing that. So great event. Going to touch on grants briefly. I think I reported out in the information sheet. We've had about just a little over $70,000 in grants over the last year or two. Sadly, those are drying up and the end of them are finishing on December 31st of this year. So that money is mostly spent and gone away. It's done some really good things in the areas of early childhood education, which we're going to talk more about. And then we also created a program out on the West Coast with a Camopi College apprentice program. We did it for the first time last year, and that was a really good success too. It didn't have a huge lot of numbers, but when you compare the number of students to the size of the grad class, it was a pretty good percentage. So going to come back to that. I want to share the newest, greatest idea that I think many of you will like. This is kind of hot off the press from the ministry. So looking at developing dual credit pathways to teacher education for First Nation students. And I know that's been a topic in our district for a long time, where in a perfect world, our ratio of teachers would be close to or equal what our student population is. Sadly, I think we're off by about a decimal place at the moment. So opportunities like this, I think, are amazing for equity and lots of areas. And the fact that students will be able to start this while they're still in high school and get started on it is a real win. So we'll go to the next slides, please, Paul. Coincidence? Maybe. I don't think so. But I think North Island College was aware of this opportunity, and they've been getting ahead of actually building a program. So the first slide was a ministry slide. This is a North Island College slide. Note that the information session is 2 days from now on Thursday. I've already had some conversations with some people at North Island College. James has assured me that senior management and also our Indigenous committee. I missed some word. Indigenous education. Word here. Is also be very interested in this initiative. So I'd like to say we're going for it. We've got a few steps to go through already still, but this meeting will inform us and give us a lot more information. But they have some really good ideas and programs and streams. If we can get students started, the statistics tell us as long as we can get people started in post-secondary, there's a really good percentage that will continue in their education. So excited about that. This comes out of the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act plan. This working group started in 2022. And so now the ministry is at the point of launching an expression of interest in the development of dual credit programs for First Nation high school students to explore K-12 teachings. It's a one-time budget grant of $25,000, which would be the better part of a cohort if we went that model, or $50,000 for each district. But it sounds like the $50,000 would be if you join with another district. I'm not super keen on that. I don't think we need it. I think we're very unique in our region and with all our partners, and I think we'll be fine on our own. So I could fill you in more, maybe with a nice email once I know more, but I'm excited about it. I think it's a really good opportunity. There might be questions on that later. So I have to have, it wouldn't start till September of 27. So you have almost a full year of lead up, but the application is due in January. So I've already started putting some details into that. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the BC Dual Credit Guide. So finally, I've been promising this, or I've been being promised for 2 or 3 or 4 years that this new dual credit guide is coming. It's here with an interesting word on the bottom there somewhere. This is an embargoed copy. So I guess you're allowed to see the front page, but I can't show you the back pages behind it. It's rather large. I've been working through it. It's kind of what we thought it would be. I think it should make things easier for dual credit. Right now, the students have to declare a designated pathway or career at 17 years old. I don't know how many of us had that decided at 17 years old. So they're hopefully going to create different pathways, which is almost like exploratory dual credit. So I might want to be an astronaut, so I'm going to take that astronomy class, or I think I might want to be an accountant, so now I'm going to take business classes, and anywhere in between, because I think it's transferable skills, transferable credits. They need to open the door, open the lid off it a little bit, to allow students more opportunity. Because it's, and then my favorite line is because here it is at the end of September when 1701 is due, but we're not using it yet. Current dual credit policy is dual credit policy. So it's a teaser. It's coming. It makes me nervous to do a whole bunch of academic dual credit this year. I've been talking to Mr. Mesker about it. Another reason for that, and we didn't get confirmation of what those opportunities would be from North Island College until late October. 1701 is the end of September. There's no net gain financially. We're going to do some because it is a good experience for students and we recognize that. But considering the current climate of finance and everything, I think we're going to be kind of careful. When this truly opens up, I think we'll really blow the lid off academic dual credit. But we do have some other areas that I'm going to share as well. So that's kind of the update on that. Next, please. I'll just run through these quickly. So certificate programs, those are mainly three areas. Those are full-time programs. So a student in grade 12 is still a high school student, but they don't really walk through the doors of the high school because they're walking through the doors. Our main partner still is North Island College. This year, 2 young ladies taking early childhood full-time program. What's really cool about that is one of them took the grant initiative last year, took the single course, loved it, was doing it. There's somebody in the room named Trustee Joseph that helped how to play in a group the previous year. And this year, 6 of the students in the current full-time cohort were students that took one of our academic dual credits. So the model's working. It's a really good success because we know there's a huge need in childcare in our community. Youth training trades, these are students in kind of the same boat that are taking full-time programs at North Island College. Now we have 4 in welding, 5 in automotive, and 6 looking towards starting a culinary program. If it happens, I've been trying to put some pressure on the right people because sometimes North Island College is closed program. So if there's something that comes out of this meeting today, I'd like some help. Maybe it's a meeting, but asking for more from North Island College. I feel like sometimes we get forgot about over here on the West Coast and everything happens in Campbell River and Courtney. So there's 4 bays there and for trades. There's welding, there's automotive. One is empty and the other one is cabinet making, but cabinet making it looks more like a hobby program. Most of the people in there are retired and having fun building stuff. They're not really looking for jobs in industry. So that's a need. We need to put some more pressure on North Island College for opportunities for our students. Youth work in trades, those are the students that are working in community and working on a trade. I'll come back to that in a little bit. We touched on academic dual credit. Emergency medical responder, you may recall, is a course inside the timetable. It's only at ADSS right now. It's an expensive program to run. We were the first in the province to run it inside the timetable. This year, we had to change our provider. We've been with Justice Institute of BC since day one. They're no longer doing dual credit EMR. So we had to find a new training provider, which is Columbia. It's okay. It's different. We're having to work around. The instructors are working around smoothing things out, you could say. But interestingly enough, this is the first year ever that we've offered 2 cohorts of this course. So we've always just done 1, but there's so much interest that we have a first semester cohort and a second semester cohort. So need is there. Great opportunity. Work experience is off the charts. Well over 120 students doing work experience this year. So I think we could do more of that at all 3 schools, but I think we need to have consistent process and procedure for what it looks like. So I'm looking to provide that. Next, please, West Coast. So lots happened last year. I'm sure Trustee Orr is aware of some of it, but we did the Camosun apprentice program, the Go To HR. I know Trustee Craig was there that day. That was a really great event for students at UQLIT to kind of experience and actually hands-on experience, but get educated in probably the number one industry on the west coast of tourism. So we're looking to do that again this year. I'm also doing some of my own work to support teachers, the career teachers out there. They have a very robust careers program, more than the other schools. They do careers 8, they do careers 9, they do CLE 10, they do CLC 12. So, but those are the types of courses where you see a lot of turnover and you have new teachers all the time. So in my experience recently with My Blueprint, I think they're the best resource for students and teachers to get students engaged in career education. So I've been doing some work with them on that. I'm getting out to the West Coast usually a couple days a month and spending a couple days a month at 8th Avenue as well. So that's kind of even distribution of my time as the percentage of students in those buildings as well. So that's been cool for a while. Youth work and trades. So I really want to push this. Like I have a goal. Skilled Trades BC sets a goal for me. It doesn't sound lofty at all. You probably giggle when I tell you this year it's 7, but it's not always easy to find those students because the ones that really want to do trades would prefer to spend their grade 12 year at a college in Port Alberni. Other times they are hidden. They're working with somebody in the community. They don't even know that they're working in a trade. They're not even aware of this program. So youth work in trades, I'm going to really push, and we're already doing it. I work with Sarah Hager, teacher on the West Coast, is one of my main contacts, but we're identifying a lot of students at USS that, because they don't have the same opportunity to go to a college and get training. So if they're working with somebody in community, we can get them credits and learning through the youth work and trades programs. So I was going to share quickly. This is the last student from the West Coast that just did this. So Melody graduated in June of last year, but I'm allowed to work with them till December 31st of the year after grade 12. So she just said, I truly recommend this program for any student interested in the trades. What started as a curiosity in salons, she did hairdressing, and a free block in my semester has turned into a fulfilling career that I see myself in for many years to come. I should just mention this young lady had straight A's. She could have done anything. But hairdressing's her passion. She says, for now, she's taking that. I wouldn't have known about this program without getting a chance to at least try it beforehand. She's now at Blanche McDonald. The program at Blanche was very expensive, and I was hesitant to invest so much money without knowing if I would even like doing hair. Luckily, the youth work and trades program was able to give me real salon experience, as well as finding a lifelong mentor before I even graduated from high school. I feel as though this program has really helped me get a head start in the industry. Thank you so much, Greg, for your kind words, all your help. You've gotten me through this from start to finish. I'm so grateful to have someone like you rooting for me. So that was nice. I didn't quite cry, but I was that's that. Island Health. So when students are asking me these days, I'll never tell them what to do, but I get the question on what should I be? I don't know what I want to do. What are some ideas? I basically go to two based on labor market research. Trades. I find most students can't go wrong with trades these days. And the nice thing is you don't have to put out a lot of money before you can start making good money. The other one is healthcare. Our healthcare, locally, provincially, nationally, is in a crisis. A lot of people retiring and not filling that need. So I actually have 3 different initiatives right now in healthcare. There's a Vancouver Island Regional Collaborative. So that's with other school districts. We meet monthly, and it's identifying and sharing pathways and potentially barriers for students. So establishing and increasing grade 8 to 12 student understanding of the healthcare field and related pathways. It's really going to create more work experience opportunities and further discussions with post-secondaries for educational training. So that one's really good. The next one, I don't even know why I got invited to this meeting at first, but man, was it interesting. I went to the Port Alberni Healthcare Summit. It was actually a lot of doctors in town. Some crazy stats for that you might know, but in our community or Port Alberni, there's 5,000 people who are unattached to a doctor. They would like to have a doctor, but they can't have a doctor. And there's 5 more doctors that are wanting to retire in community at this moment, but they're not because they recognize how tough that would be on the community. So this collaborative group is working together they don't like just saying find doctors, but they definitely want to find some doctors. They're trying to increase healthcare capacity, but other challenges are coming about. They're finding people, they'll do the interview process and people can't find daycare. I never really thought of 24-hour daycare. I don't think we have a 24-hour daycare in this community. Housing is always an issue. So lots of other issues. I learned a lot as a really interesting group and I'm gonna go back again. I just shared a little bit about the pieces that we're trying to do with dual credit and EMR and other things in healthcare, but it was a real good session. The last one is our local contact. Allison Sundstrom out of West Coast is recruitment and retention. She helps plan events and opportunities for students. Last year we did really awesome. We did a panel. She had 10 different careers in the healthcare field on the stage. And we did a career survey, invited in all the students that had interest in healthcare. And then each of those people took a turn talking about their pathway and education and what their job's like, and a really great question and answer period. Something I'd like to model on the West Coast as well. I just don't have the contacts out there as well right now. So good stuff in healthcare. So if students ask you what's a career they could be looking at in the future, healthcare and trades, I would say. Next, please, Paul.
Mr. Foley, I'm gonna tell you that you have.
Okay, I'm done. This is all kind of the day-to-day type stuff that's going on. Ministry of Education, we have community of practice meetings. They're great. At first it was like another meeting, but they're actually really good for sharing information and networking. So we get good ideas. It used to feel like in this job you work in silo, but there's really a connection of community now from district to district. I have 3 kind of ongoing professional development groups. We created a Mid-Island career working group. That's 5 Mid-Island districts. Really, that's kind of my people. When I need help. Then there's an island group, and then there's a provincial group. So I'm heading to the provincial CES conference later this month, and that's the best day of the year to gather information and meet and share people. So, and then lots of other people that you can imagine in community. It's busy, but I know everyone's busy, but it's really fun. I always say I think I have the best job in the school district with helping kids do fun stuff. All I think that's almost it.
Look at that.
This had to be pushed, Ms. Jules.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. You do so much for our students. We appreciate you. Do we have questions for Mr. Freely?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Greg, so much. Some excellent presentation. I clicked on that embargo copy and it came up.
Oh.
I got to read those pages.
Oh, no.
Any flash or anything?
No, I hope not. Virus still on it. So, when is that embargo up? Or are they just holding it until everybody says it's okay?
So then the latest was the strike.
Oh.
So that was affecting things. So then typically at the provincial conference, they do a big presentation with announcements and stuff, but they didn't think they were gonna be able to come. So my guess is that was gonna happen there.
Yeah.
Now that the strike has, I don't know if it's over, but that's in or it's in a state of negotiation. I'm hoping that there might be enough there. But it needs to happen before next.
We need to use it.
And part of my push for North Island College would be, North Island College, we need to know in May or June what the opportunities are for our students for the next school year. Not in October of that school year when everyone's already gonna be in full. And yeah, we'd like to claim money for those students.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Trustee Ransford.
Well, thank you, Chair. And thank you for that great presentation, Mr. Freely. And I did have a couple of questions, and one is about work experience and what sort of pre-training students receive before they go out and work in the community. I'm wondering if they have work safe awareness or food safe. If you can expand on that topic, please.
Yeah, so provincial standard says that students should have taken the career life education, which is a grade 10 course. The course itself is open to students in grade 10, 11, or 12. At ADSF, Mr. Farmer looks after it. He has a couple blocks as a work experience coordinator. So if they haven't had opportunity to do the course, he will go through the main learning outcomes, which includes WorkSafe BC, the employment standards, the right to refuse unsafe work, and all those means. You don't have to have food safe, but you're probably not going to a place that is working with food if you don't have it. I think we've even had students go on placement and the employers help them earn it. And now we bought our own license, so we can help students get it in-house too. I know Mr. Marr has that at 8 too, and I know USS is tapped into our 2 licenses as well. So, I'm not sure if that answers all of your questions, but,
Well, partially, I just wanted to follow up with, if I may, Chair. Does this include basic first aid and also awareness of working alone legislation for their safety?
yeah, there's a long contract. On the back has about 14 conditions. Both of those are in there. We have to do, originally we had to do an in-person site visit before a student would ever go to a place. A lot of our employers are repeat. We've had students there numerous times over the years, and we have personal connections, so we feel good about it. Or you can now do inspections through Zoom. But that's relaxed, because for example, if you ask me to go to a heavy-duty employer that's doing mechanics, I'm not an expert in that field. I've worked in a kitchen. I probably have some ideas. If somebody's in a restaurant about what's safe and what's not. So they've kind of relaxed the standards from putting the onus on us. The onus is more on the employer, but it's up to us to make sure that the employer and the students are having those conversations. But it's interesting when we had different terminology, but when we had learning outcomes, and you think of a math course, maybe has like 200 learning outcomes, work experiences always had 4. And one of those 4 is safety in the workplace. The one is the right to obtain a job. One is to be able to keep a job. And the third is to be able to reflect on that job and how you might use that moving forward.
Thank you, Greg. That answers my question. Could I have one more question, please, Chair?
One more.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Just a question about youth work and trades, and it's unfortunate that USS students don't have access to a college, but it sounds like there's lots of opportunity in the community. I'm just wondering if students were thinking of entering into trades, if they're given any support or encouragement by ascertaining whether they have suitability for that particular trade, or the physicality, or what sort of things they have to do in order to become more suitable for that particular trade, instead of going through the course or the term or whatever, and then finding out, well, I don't really like this, or I want to try something else, and then they've spent a whole year or more in that particular trade. Is there options for them to be vetted for suitability, and then maybe go to a different trade if they wish?
Definitely transferable. I've seen students start in one trade and go to another, because there's lots of transferable skills. A lot of it is a trades unit in the career education courses, the grade 10 one for sure. I'd have to look at the grade 8 and 9 curriculum again, but it happens there. We also have Skilled Trades BC. They used to be the Industry Training Authority. They oversee all trades training in the province. We have a worker for our region named Tawny Wilkins. She does a good job of regularly visiting the West Coast and locally. I know she's there on the 13th of November. So I'm going to be out there that day as well. And she'll do presentations to students, usually in grade 10, 11, 12 classes, about everything trades. But it really comes down to an agreement between the student, the parents, and the employer. If ever, we're the 4th partner in that, obviously. But if everyone thinks it's a good fit and we're willing to try, we usually do. Sometimes we have to pull the pin and say it's not working, and anybody can say that at any time. There's no binding agreement, but more often than not, they're successful. Yeah, it's a good program, and I'd like to see it happen a little bit more in general. And on the West Coast, in most districts, that's a full-time job for somebody. So if you hear of districts that are saying, oh, we have 75 kids, and that's because they have a full-time person. Mr. Dvorak used to do a good job with it at a time when he had a couple blocks for it, but I don't think we've had any full-time or designated person in that program since you haven't been there. So it's one of those things that's over there on the corner of your desk and you're constantly trying to get to it, but we could do better. I'm gonna meet the target of 7 anyway. That's a start.
7 will do that. Thank you. Trustee Orr.
Thank you. I'll be quick. To Mr. Freely, thank you for all your work on the West Coast. That's great. And busing the students out there. And if you just need any contacts, I know everyone, so let me know if you want any introductions. I'm happy to help.
He connected me with Samantha Hackett, Chamber, and she's been great too. So I think between the two of you, you do know it.
And she actually just got a new job. Yes, she did. She is now, I guess, the executive director of tourism Tupino.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Freely. That was great information. Oh, trustee Zanetti.
Thanks, just a quick one.
No, that's all. That's always quick.
During the update on grants, it says the early childhood education dual credit program and the dual credit partnership program, the grants are ending in 2025. So does that mean the programs are running or are we looking for new?
So we ran 2 cohorts. They were both spring programs. So we ran one in spring of 24. We ran one in spring of 25. And now the calendar year is the end of the grant. So we have a few $1,000s left we need to spend because they, like we said, they don't want any money. So we'll buy resources to hopefully make the program sustainable. And then the hope now is that we can run a similar type program without their funding. Didn't mention that we do have the option for two single classes of early childhood courses that are part of the certificate happening on Tuesday and Thursday evenings coming in January. And they're giving us 10 spots in each class. So some of those might be single students taking one course. Some of those might be students that are taking both courses. So we had 20 course claims for the grant in 24 and 25. We're going to have 20 students or 20 spots again without their assistance, but we know it's expensive to do this stuff, but it's worth it for kids. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Freely. You too, if you choose, you can leave. You can hang out. It's the evening.
Thank you.
very much. Thank you for coming.
I'll work on you in that 15 minutes.
I knew it was when we were in agenda setting. I'm like, there's no way.
You guys even warned me on the way in.
saw Greg on the agenda. It's like, oh.
So,
Your 1-page information.
Yeah.
Thanks.
well, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move down to 7.3 with Director of Instruction, Michelle Bennett. And inclusive education. And you have an inclusive education update. We've given you 30 minutes.
I think that probably includes.
It includes definitely 7.4.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So gave you a bit of a different package this time, not my usual style. So, and I guess it may not have been quite as easy to read. So I'll just do a quick overview. So I gave you a review of the work plans in inclusive education. So you have a work plan for Cedars. We've got the update for you is we've got the staff survey out to staff. So hoping to collect that in the next week or two. And so we'll be able to release the parent survey for a review of Cedars probably after next or the end of next week is kind of the plan. We have the survey ready, which is being quick preview, make sure our branching is accurate. We presented the Cedars review topic at SEAC, and so one of the recommendations from the SEAC advisory committee was to send it to last year's parents from students who exited the program through Evergreen. So just collecting that contact information as well from ADSS to get that sent out to parents who had students leave the program, because they would have been in the program likely from 8 to 12 or more than just a couple of years. We recognize our grade 8 parents and 9 parents have only been in the program for 1 or 2 years, or maybe 2 or 3 months, right? For grade 8. So we just want to try and make sure we have a fulsome feedback. And then Vice Principal Heidi Holman and I are going to arrange some in-person meetings with the ISDs that work in Cedars program near the end of November. We'll likely probably encroach into December a little bit, so a little bit off our work plan, but we'll do that. And with the hope of still being able to wrap up all our information by the end of January. The next work plan is the CYC. And if you looked at my next steps, this has probably been the most challenging work plan for me to get to. I work with Principal Dave Marr on this work plan, and I think our schedules are really not aligned. And so we've had lots of challenges to try and get together. So we're behind in our October work plan. And so the intent is to try and catch up in November, but it will cause us to shift our stuff. So
presenting at the principals meeting coming up next week. We're going to talk about site-based children, youth and care teams with existing staff to try and get that information or, kind of get a team set up and then work with that team with formalizing our approach to check in around our children, youth and care. Dave has some things going on at 8th Avenue that he wanted me to share. He has, I think, two after school sessions a week with, correct me if I'm wrong, Chims and Doves, the program for children, youth and care, coming in after school to run some sessions with the kids in care that are students at 8th Avenue. So he does have some activities planned, but I think we recognize we need to get back to the framework, and that's working with our teams and schools to do some intentional check-ins and follow up with our children youth and care, ensuring that we are offering wholesome support there for that population of students. The work plan for UDL is on track, which is great. I'm really pleased. We had a nice visit, a 2-day session with Leighton Schnellert in schools. And so we're just trying to plan our debrief for that with our district resource teachers. We had great participation. I was really, really, really pleased. We ran Wicked Fish on the West Coast and we ran at Macoina Elementary in the Valley. Principals were great at organizing. Lots of teachers participated. It was a awesome days for both of those sites. I wanted to just point in your package, and I apologize because I actually don't know what page it is for you. I give you 2 pictures of the day, the 2 days. I just want to draw your attention. This is, and if you look on the first page of pictures, you'll kind of see a lot of planning on whiteboards. So we had Leighton come in and do planning with teachers. 20? So just thank you. Planning with teachers. We showed in the picture, you can see some of the students working with science lessons, solid liquids and gases. Lots of engagement from kids. And Leighton is very entertaining. So I wanted to see how the planning looks on the whiteboard and the things that they're trying to plan for making sure the co-design is accessible for all learners. On the second page, I'd like to point out up in the top right-hand corner right here, there's printing in a book. It's almost not legible. I want you to know I watched the lesson. That student was by far the most engaged student in the room. And I think what I was told was the student struggles in a classroom setting for sitting still sometimes and engaging in kind of seat work. But Leighton had designed it with the classroom teacher in a way where, kids could move around and they did so many great activities. And I watched the student participate orally, was engaged, was following to the point where his classroom teacher said to me, I don't think I've ever seen this before. This is amazing. But when we had to go to take all that information, and there was lots of guidance on the whiteboard and kind of pre-written sentences for kids that struggle, right, to formulate what was about their learning. This is what was produced. And so what I wanted to point out with this picture was, this is why UDL is so important. We have to change our instructional. Have every student engaged in class. And so we knew the student was understanding, like he could demonstrate orally, he was on point. But if we relied on the written output, we wouldn't get that. So that's one of the important parts of UDL and co-design. And so I wanted to just get that. So we have planning coming in February. It'll be high school focused for 2 days, and 1 day we'll be bringing these elementary back together to kind of, how are you doing? So making sure we keep the momentum in the district. Very pleased with the district team that's doing that work, and not say enough about our district resource teachers. Our district vice principal for early literacy and our district vice principal for inclusion is also they're key players. And so we also have teachers in the Indigenous education department as well. So thank you to them. The other mental health and wellness project, I'd just like to give you a little update. So 2 different things going on. There's staff wellness and student wellness. And so the staff wellness, just to give you a little update, they ran a survey. You'll see there's information about the survey data was collected. I'd just like to give you an update because I didn't put it in the work plan. They did a fall wellness survey. They had 162 responses. Of the 162 responses, 119 expressed interest in fitness. 41 interested in the school food program, like feeding teachers. 55 interested in the Calm app, which is an app that Director Catherine Charbonneau is pushing in early years, and it's for self-regulation, the data app. 79 were not interested in learning or managing stress work. So people are like, I'm not interested in district-wide. And 74 were interested in like diet programs or healthy eating. So when the wellness committee went and took a look at that 119 around fitness, they reached out to schools and said, hey, is there anybody on your team that wants to run fitness programs? We can help support that. They received information around, it was too much to ask for the district to ask of staff to take on a role of facilitating fitness. And there was some response around the position should be paid. So the wellness committee, that's not a sustainable practice for the district. So they pivoted, and because we have a lot of, we spent some money last year on kind of our acknowledgement system, reward system kind of thing. So they went back to schools and said, look, if these things are happening in your schools, fitness or wellness that is strictly for staff, because I think staff like to stay and kind of support their team that they work directly with. So honoring that, they went back to schools and said, look, this is what we want to do. And so they had much more uptake on that. And so now schools are reaching out, we're doing this on our own. Can you help us with that reward system? So that's what the committee is focusing on. So kudos to them for hearing. You have to ask and get the voices to know how to pivot. So that's, I'm really happy about that. The other thing around for student wellness, which is the Children's Hospital Plan, working with the BC Children's Hospital team. Manager Brown has gotten a focus group together that represents administration, IST work. And I think there's keeping representation on there to talk about how can we take this information. What's come out of their meeting, they just met with the hospital team this week. I think it was yesterday. There's kind of an overwhelming sense of interest around developing mental health literacy. If you take a look at the image from your package, which is the triangle, looks like this. So this triangle is a picture of kind of wellness in school communities, and you'll see it's tiered, right? You have your policy at the bottom, and then there's universal supports, and then targeted, and then kind of more intentional interventions, referrals. But you also see the columns, and so when we did our scan this year, what came out for us is some gaps around community and family partnerships, particularly around family. We do have really solid partnerships with our community, but some interest around partnering with parents. So we're doing a little bit of focus there. You'll see at the also at the bottom around supportive culture, school culture and climate, and supportive spaces in that column. There's also a little bit of gap. So the mental health team is going to take a look at how can we go gather the voice, student voice, staff voice around safe spaces in schools. So this week, Lynn is taking, we have a practicum student working at Avenue, a youth care worker. She's going to bring her on board as a mini project for this practicum student. They're going out to Banfield to get some student voice around mental health and wellness in their school. Looking at supportive spaces, and then asking some questions around what families might need out there so that they can respond. In addition to that, she's also putting together a survey. So in terms of work plans, that's the 4 work plans for inclusive education. Are there any questions about work plan before I move on? I'll carry on. I know we're still trying to catch up on the time. Good, you're good. So what I wanted to show you, because I know some of you've seen it and some of you haven't. So the racism response update. We've shared our binder with administrators. It's been shared with SEAC and IDEA committees. And there'll be a follow-up with principals at our November 13th meeting. So we created binders. I'm just going to hand them now. I know Janice has seen this, so do you mind if I hand it to some people that haven't seen it?
Go right ahead.
You want to share? Okay, awesome. Here you go. So what you'll see is it's a binder. We've handed it out to all principals. In there, you'll see different sections. I think the key piece I wanted to point out to you is we've created a checklist. You'll see the guide is in there. There's an anti-racism K-12 program, which was handed out 2 years ago, and then there was a racism response guide in there. But what you'll see is there's a checklist. This is what I want to have your attention. We created this checklist. It comes from the racism response guide. It's 2 sections of the guide amalgamated together to create a checklist. And I think the most important part of this for us is when we talk to principals about what do you need to help address microaggressions, like blatant racism in your schools with students, but maybe with parents, like what do you need? And they said, we need kind of a guide, a checklist to walk us through. And what do we need to attend to? Because it's not an area of expertise or specific training for our teachers. And so we need something to help guide us. So we created this. It takes into consideration the person who was being harmed, but it also takes into consideration the individual who's doing the harm. Because our system is based on education. There's learning, growing, developing, changing minds, but also I think we have a thread of restorative practice here in our district. And how do we fix it with people when we hurt people? Because sometimes it's not always intentional. So we wanted to take that into consideration. So you'll see it kind of talks about step 1, step 2, kind of walks people through with both parties. This is intended for student to student, or maybe even student to teacher. So it's based on that. I think we could probably change it when we're thinking about adults or parents, but you'll see it's up to step 6. I think there's lots of pieces in here around communication. I think there's lots of pieces around making sure people are okay emotionally. We put it through SEAC, had some feedback about it. And the SEAC feedback talks about in the binder having a clear definition of racism. So you need to add that to the binder, but we haven't done this. So I'm just showing that for you guys. Also, to define what call in and call out. So you'll see the racism guide, it talks about how we call in and call out. Calling is really kind of taking people to a side privately, having a conversation and ensuring not to create shame. We don't want to shame people publicly. It's not going to help the matter. And then call out is when you see something really blatant, to be able to say, hey, that's not okay. This is how we treat each other. This is what we need to understand about each other. So there's kind of a private individual, but there's also a more public classroom. So we have some good feedback from SEAC. There's also in the binder 2 Canadian resources, and that's around making sure that we stay Canadian, because I think our context is unique to our country. And the hope is that we can build resources as we go throughout the year. There's a digital binder set up because there's live links in those resources for teachers to click on. So hopefully as we work with principals and then eventually come to teachers and talk about what they need, then we can help find resources to help support them. And I did all right.
More than all of it. Great. Yeah, no, that was great. It's a lot of information, Michelle, a lot of very informative and important information that we need first. I don't know who's going up first. I was going to go trustee Orr and then trustee Craig and then trustee Ransom.
Could you just walk me through, so say a teacher sees an incident of racism, can you walk me through how they use the binder? Like the binder's in the office at the principal, and so she takes note of it, and then can you just walk me through it?
Sure. So I think what we want for sure is when things occur, because they can occur in classroom, on playground, and we want that adult to know that the binder is in the office, except for the principal right now.
Yeah.
And bringing it to the attention of administration so they can help support. They can use the binder. I don't think the administration needs to sit there. Like teachers are very capable people, right? So, and they know they have a relationship with students. So, go into the office, get the binder, pull it out, maybe take a copy of that so they can do their own checklist. Because we want to know about students. And we also, for me, in the Ed department, I want to know if these students have diverse abilities and or disabilities, because that also helps us resource it properly. Helping the teacher walk through that, you know, if they want admin support or our supervisor wants teacher support, whatever that looks like, they can ask for that. We want to document it and then provide resources. So that's what the other two sections are for, about how do we tackle those things like microaggressions. So one of the asks are like, can we provide video series for teachers to go, okay, this is what we know has happened. How do we, now our job is the learning piece. And I think that's where we need to get to now is teachers, I think, will quickly be able to use the checklist, but it's the what now, what do I do after? And so that needs to be resourced. And we haven't got there yet. So that's the work in progress. That's the hope. Now, if principals want to do it differently, that's a good question for us to ask. And if teachers want to do it differently, that's a good question for us to ask them as well. Because the process has to make sense for them in their schools, right? So we don't want it to be a totally dictated process from the board office. We want it to get a resource out. Then it's about having conversations with principals or, you know, with principals and school teams. About how do you see this happening? If that's not the right process, how does it look in your school?
I think it's a great resource. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Trustee Craig.
Thank you so much. You touched on the answer to my question was just that moving forward for learning and having those abilities to find the answers for some situations can be so mind-boggling to try and figure how am I going to help this child kind of thing. But thank you for thinking forward and working for that. But you also will be listening to questions and we need this and where can I find this? So that will have to come to you to find the answers, I would think. But thank you. I can see that we asked many questions. I need to solve this problem with this student.
Thank you. And just in response, just I think one of the parts that is important for us is to work with both ADTU and QB, because I think they need to be part of the members, right? So we have done some consultation. I do think there's more conversations for us that about that. But I also think, you know, principals, we rely, you know, a lot on principals to go to their staff and ask those questions. So we'll continue to do that to get the necessary feedback to do the right thing for students to address it.
Oh, thank you so much for your new resource. It's awesome. Trustee Ransom.
Well, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director Bennett, for that presentation. I really appreciate this racism response checklist. It's very thorough, covers everything that you can think of. And I like the educational approach for the harmed and the harmer. I heard a quote on CBC Radio the other day. They were interviewing somebody that wrote a book. And they talked about hurt people. And it's quite a simple concept. And I think the education piece is very important to focus on. And I'm wondering if or maybe there's going to be some sort of follow-up and in-service, et cetera, for staff on how to handle maybe certain situations as we move forward, or is there any discussion on that point? Thank you.
Through the chair, I don't think I've had formal discussions yet. I think that's a good place for us to start with administration, just because as we move into the year, we're moving into school-based days. And so school-based non-instructional days. And so if teams want to cover that kind of thing on a day like that, we certainly would want to try and help with that. But if it's not, then it's good staff meeting topics. And so I think we'll need to talk to administration about how their teams want to get more information. What does that look like? And then maybe work with the unions around what that could look like. I think we'll need to probably think about in-service and what that looks like if that's the route we go. I'm still not sure if we've decided that at this point, but I think lots of things for us to think about. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Director Bennett.
Thank you. Great information. It's timely. Thank you. Oh, Trustee Zanetti, sorry. Question.
Thank you, Chair. To Dr. Bennett, I've got a couple questions actually. Listening to your response about the use of the checklist and schools you're not going to dictate how to use a checklist or that they have to use a checklist. You're going to let them kind of have the option. That's what I understood you to say with the resource. So so in my mind, the checklist provides continuity. So if you're not, so I'm wondering about that option of having them do it or not do it, or use it or not use it. Maybe you do have a better strategy somewhere else, but wouldn't this, by not requiring them to us to use it somewhat consistently, not open us up for more acts of racism or bias towards racism, racist actions? Like, if I don't want to use this because I'm racist, or I'm a person that's racist or has a view that doesn't align with whatever just happened, and I don't use this checklist, then I can just ignore what happened. So that's my concern when I hear you say that we're not going to require this to be used. I hope I've expressed what I'm saying.
I think I understand, through the chair. I think I understand what you're saying. I think right now we're in a place of where we've just started to provide resources. And I think one of the things from the district perspective is, in order to get started, sometimes we start with, here's some information, here's a checklist, here's some other links for you to take a look at, principles. Take it back to your teams and have conversations. And then you have a tool if you need to use it in the short term, but start the conversation. We haven't been intentional on going in and talking to teachers first and asking those questions. What do you do? What do you need? All those things. And so I'm a little hesitant to, I guess, prescribe or dictate that without having a conversation with the staff groups yet. So I think we're providing a resource, and we're going to come in around and have conversations through our admin teams, perhaps maybe through small other focus groups, to talk about what does this look like for you? How are you using it? Are you using it? If you're not using it, what are you doing? How are you addressing it? Because I think there's more than one way to address it. And I don't want to take that away from school sites, because they're unique communities in their own right. What we want to do is start with something and then have those conversations, and maybe it will evolve. Maybe the checklist will evolve as we go through that learning, but I think it's a place to start. And so I think if we do a top-down dictate, we're going to have a lot of pushback, and I don't think that's how we bring people together to work together to make better communities, to have better interactions. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it's just
Sure.
concerned. And then my other, I like the checklist. I also see that this it could be totally used for bullying and so on, because racism is bullying into a certain extent, or you know what I mean? It's all related. So I'm curious, do we have this sort of checklist for anti-bullying? Because that's another area that something this I think might be useful.
We do not have a checklist specific for activity. And yes, there is some universality to the checklist for sure.
Is there any discussion about having a checklist for bullying or those kind of, because it is.
I haven't had a conversation about a checklist, no. We do talk about bullying and about school approach to that, but have not had the conversation specific around, is there a checklist for bullying?
Will it be considered?
Sure, I'm happy to have the conversation with administrations around what does bullying look like? How are you addressing it? Would this be a benefit? For sure, happy to do that.
Okay, and then I have one more question, if that's okay.
Yep.
Just on page 21, the front sheet, the anti-racism
Sure, yes.
update in the PLC, and
Yeah.
under the professional development, the second bullet says collaboration with unions to offer learning for staff, small steps here. Can you explain what that means? Because I didn't understand what you had small steps.
I think we're at a place where in the binder, we've got two different resources that have learning opportunities. There's live links and there's webinars and stuff that are in those two documents. But I think that working with the union small steps means that we need to sit down and have conversations about professional development. And can we collaborate on this, or is this something that we want to move forward on? I think the reason why I said small steps is because this year we're working collaboratively with the ADT around professional development around UBL, which as a director greatly appreciated about the ADT to do that collaboration. So I think small steps are about, let's have conversations. What are we interested in? What are we not? And then once we have that information, because we haven't actually had a chance to talk about that, Once we have that information, then we'll know how we can move forward.
Can I ask one more? It's more to ADT and the principal by principal representatives. I would love to hear more from you guys in these meetings. Do you have any comments about this work that's going on? I know that there's collaboration. Hearing directly from you guys would be wonderful.
On behalf of the ADTU, we love a good binder. It's just in trade. Racism is such a challenging thing. Right? And from a philosophical lens, we oppose racism in all its forms in our schools and our classrooms. And we also are not so foolish as to understand that it doesn't happen, and how it's dealt with requires sensitivity. And I like what Michelle said, each school has its own culture, its way of doing business, and that philosophical view from the board down of we need to really deal with the issues of racism is nuanced. It's not an easy conversation, and it is not, there's no one size fit all, which is, I think, where the checklist can fail sometimes. So I'm looking forward to the consultations and the conversations around what we can do to help support this ideally noble objective, which is to work towards a racism-free school, period. That's what I really do believe all our students deserve, and teachers and all of us. I think nobody likes experiencing racism. And I know for sure it has driven students out of our system. So I'm all on board, just looking forward to figuring out a way to do that is the nuance.
Thank you.
And I would say that we're just kind of, our members are just kind of looking at the binders, kind of getting used to them and thinking about how it fits with some of the approaches that, we've got principals, vice principals that have been doing this for 20 some odd years. So thinking about how the approaches fit with the checklist. And then I think at our next admin meeting, we look forward to starting to share, having had time to kind of look through the binder and start to share some of our experiences with what's there. But for us, the more information, the better. Want to do this the right way. So I think it's good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I maybe just to add, if you, to touch on what Sean said, it is a truly a collaborative approach that will only be, it's the only, and that understanding of every person's part to play in that, including students.
Mhm.
Really includes them as well. Suggest we don't have many racist teachers left, but just joking. But we do experience racism. My members experience it directly to them, as well as the experience through the classroom environment. Dealing with it is, it takes a delicate touch. And, I commend our administrators for the approach they've taken over the last 20 plus years.
I think we appreciate the behind it because I don't think all school sites are equivalent. So it'd be good for everybody to know which sites are really struggling with it, because I know a couple of administrators are certainly struggling with one another. So I think that's really powerful for.
Great. Thank you for your feedback. Sorry, did I cut you off?
I'd add one piece. And that is the approach, an approach that's supportive versus punitive will pay dividends over
Yes.
time.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Got it. You too. Are you sticking around? Yeah, you can. I'm here. This is great. You only lost one. Yes. Down to 7.6, Fire Smart BC launch wildfire safety curriculum for schools, BCSTA weekly for 5 minutes. Sorry, did I? Oh, look at that. I checked it off thinking that we were done. 7.5, learning and innovation update, Assistant Superintendent Messenger.
Yes. Okay, so there is an information sheet provided in the agenda, starting on page 25. I think it's got 5 pages long. and provided to you. Hopefully you had a chance to review it, as there's lots of information there. And I think what I want to really just emphasize, and before opening up to questions, is just how hard our staff are working. Professional standards for educators. Number 7 is educators engage in professional learning, and our educators are engaging in professional learning. I want to commend Director Bennett talked about our district resource teachers. Our district resource teachers are working very, very hard to be responsive to the needs of our staff. I can recall, I think one evening I was leaving here after a board meeting, and our resource teachers were coming in to do a Zoom meeting with educators that had asked for them. And when I came back in the morning, and I'm normally one of the first cars in the parking lot, if not the first car in the parking lot, and their cars were already here as they were out driving to the West Coast to go support teachers. So, but I can't forget to acknowledge our principals, vice principals. At the start of the year, we talked about really wrapping around our early career teachers, and they have been instrumental in connecting our resource team with the early career teachers, providing, finding out who they are, what they need, and how they can support them, and just the willingness of the teachers to engage in that. And then I can't forget about our support staff. So I did mention in the information sheet, the learning opportunity being offered for education assistants and Indigenous support workers on the Pro Day. And don't quote me on the exact number, but I believe it's 22 support staff we already have signed up for that. And a number of support staff who've already reached out to say, I can't come to this one because I have a training. Are you going to offer another one? So it just, I think, shows the dedication and the willingness to want to learn, to want to do better, and the hard work. So I don't know if I think it's all in there, and I would just open it up to questions. And
Trustee Correct, just quickly, thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Messenger, I'm really pleased to see that there is that chance for the new teachers to have that mentorship. Years and years back, we used to have individual mentors that were assigned, and I recall conversations about how helpful it was, how much they appreciated. So in this vein, the first 5 years is such a critical time frame. And to get that sense of security in their job really is what's happening here, because they have that time to bounce it off someone they can trust. So to me, that's paramount for us moving forward. And I really appreciate the time that you and your team have taken in to make that happen on a regular basis. Very important. Thank you.
Trustee Zanetti?
Thank you, Chair, to Superintendent. Love this. I so pleased to read the engagement and the success and the early years training and the impacts and the different initiatives focusing on all those strat plan, all those things that we're trying to do, and to support teachers and staff, and all great things. I'm going to focus on that vein. All the sessions initiatives have received, I'm trying to read my notes, which are heart tricky, good level of support, enthusiasm, strengthening teachers' confidence and appreciation. So that's because their appreciation of this extra attention, training, collaborations just shows it'll just have more engagement, which is key. Teachers, staff trying to get engaged, student success is what I'm thinking. So I'm happy about that for the educators and students. And I also, when I look at this and I read it, I just think this is going to be one of the mitigating factors in our staff attendance and retention and sick leave and all those sorts of things. So I think this is on the right path. Okay, my focus question, I'm looking at the numeracy and learning series on page 27 and impact measures. At this stage, most sessions have been informal, whereas some of the other ones look very structured, is that the right word? So I know that, we're doing somewhat better on numeracy, but we're still not doing great. Like, we're working on it. So why is it informal? Is that just, so I'm wondering, is it the lack, because we think we're doing okay, or capacity, or what's what?
Yeah, great question. Through the chair, it's really just a timing piece, and sort of a reflection of what we've been asked, I guess. So, our numeracy, our early career sessions have been broad and focused. So at the same time, so broad reach, wanting to reach the early careers teachers, bring them together, collaborating with others, and then focused in terms of what do they need. And in most cases, it's like, what do I need right now? So we've done a session on learning conferences. Our session this week coming up with our early career teachers is about preparing for their first written card or communication of learning. So it's kind of that timely. And then the informal nature of it has been, and maybe informal is the wrong choice of word, individualized maybe is a better word, in that individual teachers have requested, can you come in and help me with delivering this numeracy assessment? Can you come in and help me? My class is struggling with fractions and I'm not sure how to use Cuisenaire rods, or that type of nature. Our larger group sessions, more formalized scheduled group sessions, are going to be happening in the new year. And that is really just a scheduling thing and an availability of our presenters.
Yes, thank you. To the chair, to ADTU and the principal, vice principals. Yeah, again, just want to hear from you. You guys are very supportive, but any other comments about what your members are saying? And are they loving this? Are they wanting more? Any challenges they're having?
Well, the overwhelming concern I hear from our members is workload and the ability to do the job given the time they have, as well as sort of an ongoing, I think, system level angst that is almost unrelated to this district. It is like a provincial piece. Our system is getting squeezed, and I'm sure you're feeling it here. Teachers and everyone else is feeling it at the ground. You know, they're frontline workers, and the front line has gotten more challenging the last few years. And I think despite our best efforts, it's gotten harder. The job has gotten harder. And the resilience factor is less. So, you know, and I commend a lot of the work James is doing to try and do the impossible with nothing, basically. It's not an easy task. And yeah, I think we need to continue to have these conversations around how we can work together to make it a manageable job again. So at this point, I will be honest, I don't think it is.
So may I ask Jack a question? So when I read this, I get the impression this is helpful. Is this?
Yeah.
It is helpful.
Absolutely. Every little piece can be helpful in the big picture. There's parts that are local issues that are being tackled, and there are parts that are not local issues that are much more difficult for this to be able to tackle. So, but you know, I would say overall, small steps, incremental progress will make dramatic change over a short period of time.
I guess from my perspective, thinking about what James presented, I think this is the most positive I've heard about our EAs, all talking about the November Pro Days. So a lot are really interested in the literacy resource stuff, just for even like at the elementary level, for like letter sounds and stuff that they're hoping to get from that. And so I can't think of in the past when we've done something this sort of like, so yeah, I heard they were in the 20s too, so that's fabulous. And then people are always really excited EAs to get the opportunity to work with Lindsay on top. And so the professional development opportunities I think for EAs is really great and I've heard great things. All our staff are pretty excited about that. And then I think this is the first year I remember that we've really gone after and tried to connect with new teachers. And I know on our staff, it's just been really powerful because those of us that, like myself, that have been in this for a little while are saying, who's next and what happens when? We recognize we have a lot of teachers and principals, vice principals that probably have under 8 years left. So who is next? And how do we not lose those people? So I know the staff at McQuina, the new teachers felt very valued. And I even saw Sandra and Steph meeting after school today with one of our teachers there, just working on report cards and some other stuff. So I think there's real value that's been happening for those groups.
Thank you. Move on. Yes, please.
Trustees, before we move into these other areas that Dr. Bennett and assistant superintendents topics, if you look back at our enhanced student learning report, those are directly drawn out of our operational plan, which flows, as trustee Nay made a comment about, from our strategic plan. So you'll see complete alignment here with what their work is, what we've approved, what we submitted to the ministry, and what the board has set in place for our goals.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we will move down to 7.6. Jumped ahead of myself. I was. Fire Smart BC launches wildfire safety curriculum for schools. And this is with Assistant Superintendent Messenger.
Yes, so I provided an information sheet regarding this topic. It's on page 30 of the agenda. And that information sheet really just discusses how we've shared this information with our educators and across our staff, and how that information is distributed, received, and hopefully taken up in schools.
Questions, comments? Trustees May?
Thank you, through the chair, to Assistant Superintendent Messenger. So you're saying there's no, I'm wondering what a sense of the uptake then. Do you have any yet?
Pardon me, sorry, I think
Sorry.
it's one word.
The sense of the uptake, the engagement on this is brand new. Maybe you don't have that yet.
It's not, I mean, I think they're consistently adding to the curriculum, but the curriculum itself is not brand new. You'll see we actually circulated it 2 years ago, and the link and have sent updates. I mean, I think success of an uptake is also somewhat, or a big part, dependent on instructional passion, right? And maybe relevance and engagement from their students. So I think it's top of mind in the spring and the summer when we're dealing with these things, or there's news and media related to it. It's front and center for some of our educators, and because of maybe their interests and passions outside of school, and they bring that into the classroom. And sometimes it comes front and center because a student in their classroom takes interest or passion in. So I think it's generally those things that improve the uptake, but connecting to what Mr. Dvorak said, there's a lot of information coming at our educators, and we put it out there and to see what speaks to them, what speaks to their students. But there's no way they can take it all up. So they need to make choices as to what they do take up and how heavily they engage in that.
Thank you very much. And down to 7.7. Oh my gosh, sorry, Larry. I'm sorry.
No worries, Chair. I know I kind of blend into the background sometimes.
No, I'm staring like literally right at you, and I should. Jazz hands or something.
Yeah, don't wear black.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Exactly.
It's too good to be true, but I'm here.
Trustee Ransom, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and kudos to staff. This has been an excellent meeting, lots of good information and to the point that James just made about a lot of information flowing to staff. Yeah, there is a lot happening, and I know from my own personal perspective, I'm quite interested in the Fire Smart curriculum. As a volunteer firefighter, there are teachers who are volunteer firefighters and or from families that are firefighters. So, you know, to the point that during fire season, yeah, there's a lot of interest in this, but you know, there's also a lot of other things on teachers and staff and EAs and KP staff, and they're busy and they've got a lot going on and there's a lot happening. And to Mr. Dvorak's point about there's a lot going on provincially on our file as trustees, as boards of education, as teachers, as secretary treasurers and superintendents and assistant superintendents for accountability and reporting, et cetera, et cetera. And that sort of speaks to some of our concerns about funding school districts around the province. And I'm on a committee with the BC School Trustees Association where we talk about this stuff, and it's happening everywhere. It's not just us. And so that's enough for my rant for now, but thank you for listening, and thank you for an excellent meeting. It was great, great intel here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Ransom. Yes.
Maybe just a little bit more. We do distribute a weekly learning service bulletin that goes out to all our staff, and that's a conscious communication strategy that we have so staff, and I think the uptake at times is good, at times not so great, but we're trying to sort of systematize a way to distribute the information, reduce the volume of, you know, that staff are not getting 50 to 80 emails with links in it, but one email where they can scan and see information that's relevant, maybe relevant or more relevant to them right now. And I think it's gotten better, and it's being better received.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Our final item on our agenda is new legislation for increased childcare by school districts. Superintendent Claver.
Thank you. Trustee Ransom had asked this to come to the committee just for questions or information. It's really, I think most of us, and I say us, I mean superintendents, were like, what is this all about? We're not really sure why this was tabled. It's not law, and it has quite a ways to go before it actually is law. And I think it probably has to do with some school districts who may have collective agreement language or something that was limiting the use of their facilities on non-instructional days. What the recovery of reasonable cost is, I don't know, because childcare facilities are licensed to charge a certain amount per day at $10 a day or whatever. So there is no information than what I just provided to you, which was in a news release. So I'm honestly really can't answer any questions on it, and I'm not really sure why it was tabled. I know it doesn't impact us right now. And 90% of school districts, childcare providers are third-party providers like we do. The other 10% have pilot programs where they're being funded by the ministry to provide childcare on school grounds. Initially a pilot project that seems to be extending. And no new pilots are being allowed. So some of the schools are receiving money in order to pay their staff, in order to run their own childcare programs. We don't. So to kind of give it to you for information without a whole lot of background. And I think probably once it hits the committee at the legislative place, we'll find out a little bit more about what does it mean. But yeah.
Thank you. You had 15 minutes.
I know. I know.
Look at you dance now.
It's a joke. Yeah. But Larry has a question.
Trustee Ransom and then Trustee Craig, please.
Well, thank you, and thank you for sharing that, Peter. I think it kind of speaks to what's happening at the 30,000 foot level in government and how it's impacting education as well as other ministries. They're in a crisis. There's stuff happening south of the border that's impacting our budget, and until that's resolved, I think we're sort of in tough. I hate to say it, and hate to have to get political in this committee meeting, but I think that everyone around the table understands that this has been building for a while. The forest industry has been decimated, and that's our major economic driver in our community and across our province, and it's impacting families, impacting students, and it's important that we talk about it, that we, it's the elephant in the room. We can't provide services and more resources that students need and teachers need to do their jobs if the taxpayer can't pay more taxes and the ministry can't provide more resources. Healthcare gets the majority share. So we, as a lobby group, we do what we can through lobbying through BCPC, BCSCA, Superintendents Association, et cetera. But if there's no money in the kitty, we're not going to get any more money. So we have to continue to hold our feet to the fire and speak and advocate on behalf of students and our district, and that's all we can do. And plan for the worst, hope for the best, and keep moving ahead. I feel great about the response I've heard from staff and from the principal and vice principals and ADTU on things we're doing for teachers to assist them in the classroom. They've got a tough job. All our staff, everybody has a tough job in education. So kudos to you, and I really appreciate this meeting. It's been very informative, and there's been a good sharing of ideas and a great Q&A. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Trustee Craig?
Thank you, Chair. To Superintendent Claire, have you had any inquiries about this legislation from parent or community? I had one, and that was basically what I told them. This is what we know, and that there is no more money coming to us to provide different types of childcare. So we'll just have to see how it plays through.
Yeah, and our third party providers do operate, most of them during non-instructional days, part of the summer, spring break. Some of them, I think, for a week of Christmas. It sort of depends on the business model they have.
Yeah.
So we have, this does not free us
No.
up. We're already free to do that.
Yeah. Would you like it to be?
No, you're being.
I can drag this out.
Dancing or telling jokes. So,
You want someone to tell this.
I will stop it.
Yeah.
So our next meeting of the Education Committee of the Board of Education will hold on February 3rd, 2026, 3:30.
So before you adjourn, just quickly.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. This is the fancy book that I told you all about. This is the product from the USS students. They produced each year on A Legacy of Hope. And this is the poetry book. We've got one from every year. And this production is quite elaborate, so it's very expensive. So I was only able to get one. So Heather Hendry put it aside for me, and I picked it up yesterday and I ran it to the school after we went through. Anyway, this is really important to me because on the second inside page, there is a lovely lady's name of Sydney. They don't give you the last names. They don't tell you which poem Sydney wrote, nor any of her classmates. But of course, the only Sydney at USS is Sydney Crick. Anyway.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
And we will adjourn this meeting on that note at 5:10 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. You're doing a great job, Michelle.
Yeah.
Appreciate the support of the board.
Sounds good.
Yes. Fabulous. Fabulous news.